Hi, I'm Daniel Metler from Tusik Internet Solutions, and in this short video I want to talk about a very important topic that we had at the DNN Connect 2016, and we weren't able to finish it, so I would like to give a brief summary here of what my thoughts are, because I think it's very easy to solve, but I believe it just needs a different way of looking at the problem. So the core topic, or the elephant in the room, is the .NET Core for DNN, and that is all about this. We all know it's a very important issue for us in the long term. We're all kind of daunted by the aspects it may contain, but let's look at it a little bit more. We all want .NET Core, that's for sure, because Microsoft talks about it, because everybody thinks and hopes it'll be cool. And basically, we don't really want to wait 5 to 7 years, I assume. Because if we look at this realistically, at least the suggestions I've heard so far would take at least that long to implement on a realistic basis. So basically, I want to talk about what we really want, because a lot of people talk about .NET Core as if it will solve everything, whereas in reality, we have to remember it's new, it'll have issues, it'll have missing APIs. These are all the things that we're going to talk about, but that don't necessarily contain what we actually want. But we want it. Let's be straight about that, because in reality, our real needs are real, but they're different. At least the way I see it, our biggest concern is that we would create something today which would be old tomorrow, and that we would be breaking our customers' trust by doing this. So whatever we do today, we want to do the right way, the new way, to protect our customers and our work, and that's actually what we're concerned about. And if we look at it that way, more or less it's an investment question. So first of all, we want to be sure investments are not lost. But it's not just that. We also want to build things that still run in the future, because whatever happens, we're kind of thinking the full .NET stack is not the full future. We also want higher productivity, like ASP.NET Core. The Razor engine has some really cool things like the tag helpers, which actually look a lot more like web forms again. They're not, but they do a lot of things that we used to have ASP.NET tags for. And looking at it that way, this could help us be more productive, create more component style parts and assemble them the way we used to in web forms. And we would like to benefit from this kind of stuff. We also, of course, let's be honest, want to be part of the cool guys. When we're at the beer bar and hanging out with everyone, we want to talk about the cool stuff and not be the grandpas that are using the old web forms technology. And it's just important to also cater to that, because when we hire people, they too want to be part of the cool gang and not part of the grandpa collection. So we want that, and of course we want to be part of the gang that has the best content management system / platform / CMF / whatever. By most popular, of course, or best, there's a lot of definitions for that, but let's say we want to be proud of what we work on and what we work with, and that is very important for us, for our team, and for our customers too, in the background a little bit. And of course, a lot of us kind of think that the .NET Core would be part of that solution, so let's look into it. One of the strategies that I think people are talking about is a bottom-up strategy, talking about let's create a completely new DNN engine that may reuse the database structure and be built completely on .NET Core. It, of course, would be clean. The amount of work would be reasonable, but in reality, it's completely starting all over. So nothing existing would work on that. There is no reasonable way and no foreseeable future where a web forms component would run in that. So if I would want to leverage a component that exists today, it would not run. That's 100% clear. So the weakness of this, there's pros and cons, but in general, it would be kind of cool. It would be done in about 2 years. And by then .NET Core would mature. So it's not that terrible from the time scope, but the end result would be fairly simple. It wouldn't be better than anything else we had, especially because we cannot leverage existing stuff. And well, if we look at it, it's just a complete loss of everything we've done so far. So we as an implementer couldn't build a new project with it yet. We couldn't tell our customers, let's just upgrade and plug it in, because the upgrade would fail. Everything that's inside it would fail, except for possibly anything that's just done in Razor or in 2Sexy. But any other third-party component would simply not work. And it would be almost impossible for those components to provide an upgrade path. So this is a high-risk strategy. It basically means starting all over and maybe just keeping the brand. But in reality, it's absurd. The next strategy would be to say, let's create an API inside DNN, which would be future compatible. And this API would be a complete rework of the API. The old one would continue to work, but new components would use the new API and try to do things that way, so that once in the far future, when all components only use the new API, we could lift DNN and everything would continue to work. There's some benefits to it, that it's a flowing migration. It would be incredibly hard to design an API that runs today and would work tomorrow. It's doable, but it's a very high risk and a very, very high cost. So aside from the cost of development, basically the real transition couldn't happen for another 5, more realistically 10 years. So the hybrid state would cause a lot of problems because people would still create components that use old and new things. There would always be some APIs missing. And they couldn't actually start until in about 3 or 4 years, because that's how long it would take for the API to kind of get realistic. So this strategy too, I believe, is very hard to do, very expensive, but at least I think it's better than the previous one. Let's look at the next one. We could extract and rebuild some parts. So we could say, let's look at search. Let's just build the part search completely new in a way that is dual system compliant, and then run search separately. And then we could take the next part and run it externally. The next part might then be a web service, and we'll extract that too. And within a few versions, more and more parts would actually leave the core components and be more of a plugin system, which would already be on a new technology. And it's a similar to the API concept, but it's a bit more componentized. It would still take a very long time to do. I think the amount of work is similar. The risks are a little bit lower, but if we're just honest, it's still lots and lots and lots of work, and it would take forever until people creating modules or 2Sexy apps could actually benefit from this. They would still have to work on the old stack for a very long time, 3 to 5 years, before they could leverage the new concepts. So, cool thing is the extracted parts would already be an extra value. The bad thing is the high risk, and basically we'd still also have a hybrid state for quite a long time. People would still be using the old methodologies to create components, and so it's not very satisfactory from the idea of we need to develop a new thing now. So if you have any alternate strategies, please go to this blog post and post them there, because then we can have a discussion in the thread. Because now I'm going to recommend what we think is the best strategy, because we think it's much simpler than that. Because I believe from the way we've worked with 2Sexy and DNN in the past, that the solution is fairly obvious, but it means that we have to ask ourselves what we're actually trying to do. We want to create new solutions now, doing it the new, potentially right way. We want the new toys, we want to be modern, we want to be a good employer, we want to be educated as an employee, and I think we want to also take our time to define what we're actually trying to do with the core while we're already creating new solutions. Because if we upgrade the core too quickly, we're going to make a lot of big mistakes. .NET, ASP.NET 1 Core, whatever it's going to be called afterwards, is still very one. That means whatever we do now, it'll be a little bit like iBuySpy version 1. It's kind of nice. It'll work as a proof of concept, but trust me, it's not going to be done the right way because we don't have an experience yet with this technology. We're going to build in some trivial mistakes which will haunt us in 5 years' time. So we want to take time to learn, creating real solutions without already making the big decisions. And I think that can be done fairly easily, because if we look at the real value that we're looking for, we want something, but not probably what we've been talking about so far. Because if we look at low-hanging fruits, if we could just today already create components using .NET Core Razor. Okay, so not just ASP.NET Razor, which is already very easy, but .NET Core Razor. If the components we create could already use that, use C# in the newest version, and force us to work with the limitations of .NET Core, that's an important thing as we're going on. We could learn the things we could develop now for things that will last this test of time. And then once we figured out how to move the bottom parts, we can do it. And to be completely transparent, if one day we decide that the bottom parts should be a different platform, we too can move that. So even though I am completely fan of DNN and everything we're doing there, if we want to plan for the future, we have to plan for a DNN.NET Core or whatever, and building it this way, because this is what we've been doing in Too Sexy all along, is building components that use basic technologies that will run tomorrow, because all our Razor web apps will run tomorrow without a problem. So that's kind of taken care already. So actually the only thing we're missing right now is the Razor engine of the new parts. So this is fairly simple. And if we could enable this kind of a development today and build development recommendations, we can worry about everything else later. This will give us a huge time advantage. And believe me, I think that's the most important thing. Because if somebody else creates a .NET Core CMS tomorrow, they will get most of the attention, they will get most of the new kids, and they will get a drive into it. And we're going to be a little bit the old guys. And that's not going to be the great way. So if we look at a normal portal here, it's fairly simple. And so a lot of it is just output based. I mean, we've been doing this forever now. Template, data, output. The data could come from different places, but it's templating. There's some integration, and there's some moments where something should happen on the server, but it's like 90, 95 something % output based. And if we continue to look into that, all the output-centric stuff, again, the Razor already works. It's just Razor.NET Core that we're kind of missing. And if we look at the actions, that's a point that is still very weak. We could try to do it the way, here's the way DNN tries to do the MVC. But all the implementations I've seen so far are, in my personal opinion, not a good idea. The way the action handling works feels even more complicated than MVC does it. So I believe maybe we could just find an elegant intermediate solution where all the actions happen over web APIs. That's blazingly fast, that does exactly what we want on the screen. You have no issues about page state or posting too much data. So possibly just doing JavaScript web API would solve everything anyways, and we wouldn't be too concerned about what the actions could be otherwise. So that problem we could mitigate for now. And maybe we can also find a solution where we really have this kind of a MVC on the client and MVC on the server, the way Microsoft kind of does it, or not. But that's something we can learn as we go. So just actually creating a Razor ASP.NET Core engine and hosting it inside Too Sexy, or maybe even inside DNN. I talked to the Microsoft guys at the conference, and it sounds like we could do that in a few hours. So at least the prototype should be able to be hammered out within no time. It may not be the recommended solution yet, but it would already let us experiment with the future and see how to do it. And the complex part of really doing MVC components, I also talked to them and discussed a few models, how we could integrate it, and it really looks like we could do that in a few days. So if we look at the problem from this perspective, how can we build something now that will stand the test of time? It doesn't look like it's such a big deal. I'm completely open to being wrong, but I hope you understand my thoughts on this, that I think we're just worried too much about something that's not even such a big issue. Because we've been doing this for years now, and it's worked fabulously. We would just add another view engine, and if we really want to make it more complicated by doing some kind of a controller support as well, but not such a big deal. So what do you think about this? I would really love to hear alternate suggestions or also feedback on this. Anything from brilliant to you suck. Take your pick and give your recommendations. I personally have to say we've been using Razor for forever and we've been very happy with it. So I think this is not a biggie. I've really not liked the action implementation on .NET Core, so I really dislike duplicating that. But again, I'd love to hear your experience. Since we didn't touch it, maybe I'm missing something. So I'd love to have your feedback on this. Please contribute, please answer, please discuss it, because I think if we do this right, we could even be ready with a functioning .NET Core first draft with DNN the same time .NET Core becomes official, and that would be amazing. So this is Daniel Mettler, Tusik Internet Solutions for the DNN community right after DNN Connect 2016. Thank you for watching.